How you doing, man? Ginas, Tanky Todd here, and bringing you guys a video about esports related Call of Duty content type thing, and the rule changes, the team changes, and how UMG Philly all wrapped up, all in one video. And before I get started, I want to say this video is a 2v2 GB game between myself and my buddy Mark, or I'm Buns. And this game specifically was really awesome. This night, which was just yesterday, since I'm recording this, we were, I think, 4-0 going into this. Well, excuse me, we were on a 4-game win streak going into this, and this is our last game of the night. I kind of been drinking. I had like 3 beers and 2 shots, which isn't a whole lot, but it's enough to probably kind of affect my shot. Anyways, we get assigned this game. We found somebody, and the 2 guys we're playing is 5,000 MLG rank and 8,000 MLG rank. So usually that means they're really good. So the first game we lost Sovereign 6-5. And we kind of choked. I think we were up 5-3 or something around that range, and then they came back and beat us on our host too, which was unfortunate. The next game we pulled out an Octane win, 6-4 on their host, and then this last game is the Warhawk game that you're about to see. And there's some mistakes I make. I will be the first one to admit it. I missed some shots here, and overall, it just wasn't one of my better games. But it's awesome. We pulled out the W. We came back and won it because of our positioning and the ways we went around going about killing them, I guess, and flanking them and shit like that, and setting up. So it's a really good game. Like I said, it's 2v2. Me and Mark have only been playing Ghost together for 3 days now. We've played Modern Warfare 3 together and Black Ops 2 together for doubles, but not like this. We're going hard this year. Overall, so you guys can see what kind of stuff we do. And like I said, it's not the best gameplay, for instance. I think we both go negative. But overall, I think it's a really cool game, and it kind of shows you that it's not all about gun skill, I guess. So, yeah. But like I said, my gun skill is usually better than it was this day because I was drinking, and I think it was like 1 or 2 in the morning. We were about to go to bed. We were kind of tired. So, overall, it was a really big victory for us against two top players, to be honest with you. Anyways, let's get started with the esports things. First, I want to make mention like some of the rule changes coming up because a lot of people were complaining about UMG Philly with the rules, the shit with the broadcaster settings, and they are fixing the codcaster broadcaster. I'm not sure which is which from between Black Ops 2 and Call of Duty Ghosts, so I'm not sure which one is named the other. But anyways, they are banning ghillie suits, tracker sights, and what's the last one called? Danger Close. All 3 of those will be banned, so that's awesome. I'm not a guy. Me and Mark started using these ghillie suits, which we didn't enjoy, and I know a lot of people don't like to use them. I think they are pretty cheap. It's really hard to see, especially on a map like this or Octane. So I do definitely like that they are going away. As you see there, he's using the tracker sight. In my opinion, the tracker sight and thermal are almost identical. And they're both used the same way. They're both pretty good. I'm not really sure what the flame war is with the tracker sight. I think people said you can strafe on the ground and still be aimed in instead of like your reticle not being up, something like that. So, anyways, let's keep going. Let's talk about UMG Philly first. Then we'll get to team changes. UMG Philly was a decent event. I want to say UMG Philly actually for us viewers at home was horrible. They had so many mistakes, and I'm gonna say maybe it was their first time with this new game, so hopefully they'll improve from that. But overall, I was very, very unimpressed as they've hosted Call of Duty tournaments before, and they've never been this bad. Like, there was not very good broadcasting, like codcasters, in my opinion. Obviously, a lot of the big names are really good at codcasters, but they had some new guys, and they seemed nervous. They seemed like they didn't know strategies, what they were talking about. They also didn't seem to know much about the game, to be honest with you. They just said, like, the most obvious stuff and the most broad stuff that like anybody would know. Like, you're literally watching, it's like, all right, the 2v1 situation. I mean, they would just keep saying that over and over and over again, rather than like, hey, maybe where's the last guy going to be? Like, what would you do in this situation, you know? So I didn't think the codcasting was great. The video kept fucking up all the time. The audio editing, the video editing was pretty piss poor. Hopefully they get better from there. But now on to the actual gameplay shit. There was a lot of close games, and it was just like MLG Columbus. Not a lot had changed with strategy-wise. I would say Danger Close nades were different. I don't think I saw that very often in Columbus. Tracker sites also started to sprout up a little bit more. A lot of teams had a gentleman's agreement where they wouldn't use ghillie suits checker sites or Danger Close, but some of the teams relied on it heavily. Um, but there was a few surprises in the tournament. Obviously, E-Girl Slayers was the big surprise. Most of them were former Call of Duty pros that were making a comeback. One of them, Raven, I forget, I think it's Raven, was a codcaster, and I think he had played some like GB and shit like that, MLG stuff before. And by the way, this strategy right here, a lot of people like to rush the A-bomb, but they kept throwing out stuns, so we tried to do a slow push and wait for that stun to go by. So that's what we did there. That's why we were kind of waiting back. We were hoping we can catch them off guard, because what this team liked to do is they would stun A-bomb, and when they didn't get anybody, they would just rotate straight to B right away. Unfortunately, our plan worked. We got the bomb down pretty easily. Our setup was a little bit rough because we hadn't done that strategy before. So it was definitely something that worked for us, though, for getting the bomb down. Anyways, back to the esports UMG Philly. E-Girl Slayers was definitely a pretty big surprise. They made a run all the way through the loser bracket, I think winning 7 games in a row to get to the championship bracket, which they took out 2 teams, but overall, I think the last day on Sunday, they just were not riding that high of an adrenaline of getting through the losers bracket, and overall succumbed to some losses. But that's what's going to happen. Like, they were kind of inexperienced in a way from pro point wise, and being together as a team. Unfortunately, they are already broke up, which I'm going to get to that point in a little bit. But what do you know? Complexity wins another one. Despite having Karma instead of Clayster, doesn't matter. You still have 3 pivotal guys. TP is one of the greatest players of all time, I'd say. I think his strategy, his setups are just amazing. He knows exactly where to go. He knows exactly where everybody else is going to be. Same thing for Eggs, and Kerm 6 is just a huge slayer. So, I mean, their team is probably unstoppable. FaZe, I think, was the closest to beat him. Obviously, TK was pretty close to beating him. Team Caliber, that is, was pretty close to beating him in the MLG Columbus. So right here, here's a close call too. I decided to go for defuse because a lot of time they'd been waiting until the last couple seconds. I almost get naded and I barely get it off. I probably should have jumped on the bomb just a little bit sooner so it wasn't as close. But overall, that was probably a pivotal play more than any in this game, because we would have been down 1-4 rather than 2-3. So that was a huge play right there, and it was something that I don't normally do, is go for the bomb defuse right away, but ended up working out for us. And so basically everybody's trying to go for complexity. Curse Las Vegas and that stand a chance, despite them also being a favorite. And overall, it was 1-2-3 in the seedings and in the final standings. So everybody, it's just basically complexity at another level, and everybody else fighting to see who has a chance to beat them in the end. And let me get to Optic too, because Optic obviously got rid of JCap, who's on FaZe now, for Ricky. And I think it was a good decision in a way. I think JCap kind of got ripped off. I think he got let go for no reason, not his own fault. I understand you need a guy that could be a shout caller, and it was supposed to be Nadeshot, and then finally Nadeshot was like, you know what, I can't do this. And unfortunately, Nadeshot being Nadeshot, he's kind of like the voice of Optic, you know what I mean? At this point, he's the most popular Optic player, in my opinion. And not even my opinion, like if you just look at YouTube stats, if you look at Twitter stats, if you just look at Twitch streaming shit, he's the most popular one. And so they couldn't quite get rid of him, so they went for the next one, which was JCap, who was fairly new. And picked up Ricky. By the way, Ricky played an awesome tournament. He did what he could. He does all the call-outs and shit like that. He's overall a very consistent player, which is something Optic needs. But anyways, it didn't work out. They can't seem to win the pivotal games. They lose a lot of search games, 6-5, and they definitely need to get that fixed. So this time around, I'll get that in a second. So Optic did not perform as well as they should have. And a lot of Optic fanboys were just not very happy about it. So let's get to the roster changes. And Optic is obviously the most important one because of the names they brought in, which is just kind of weird. It's kind of like they brought in all the biggest names that were available. Like everybody that was not on Complexity was an option, and they brought every single big guy. Clayster, they brought in Optic Parasite. So those 2 names alone are huge, if you don't know already. And the thing is, though, they're all conflicting personalities. It's known Nadeshot does not get along with Parasite that well. Scumpy does not get along with Clayster, didn't like Clayster. So that's kind of why they had to make that decision. But Scumpy left on his own terms. What they were planning on doing, I think what they were wanting to doing is make a second Optic team with Ricky and Nate Shot being on one, Scumpy being on another, being the coach of one, and then him adding his own players. But Hex, I think, vetoed it and said, no, we're just going to stick with one team, which is the good decision. I mean, if your one team's not winning, how do you think you're going to have two teams try to win? You know what I mean? So overall, now he's obviously on Envy, which I think that makes Envy very strong. Despite losing Rambo as a coach, Rambo's a smart guy. He'll be a good coach, but it's kind of sad to see him not play right now. He said not to rule out any comebacks for the B Gaming. He says this isn't him retiring by any means. It's just, I think it seemed like him taking a break and coaching. And but Scumpy is a very big player for them, and Envy will be pretty strong. And back to Optic now. I see them doing well. I don't see them winning with the roster they have. There's a lot of attitude adjustments needing to be made. Clayster gets pissed. Parasite gets pissed. Nade Shot gets pissed. Optic Ricky's the only, Nade Shot doesn't get pissed comparatively to Parasite and Clayster, but at the same time, there's times where you can watch on the stream, he just gets upset if he doesn't have the game go his own way, doesn't win certain gunfights. It's just you see that his emotions come through, which it comes through for all of us. If I was recording my voice in this game, you would have heard me get pissed a lot. So it's just what happens. But with all these conflicting personalities, if they're not winning, you're going to know about it. You're going to hear it, and they're just going to keep losing at that point. So once they get a couple big victories in like a tournament or a series or something like that, I can see them doing better. But at the same time, if they get behind on somebody, I just don't see them coming back and winning it. So it's kind of weird setup. It's not, in my opinion, like the normal with different like sub players, different AR players, objective players, and shit like that. It's just like a smorgasbord of big names. It kind of reminds me of like an NBA team bringing in like different all-stars and trying to make the all-stars work despite their personalities. So we'll see how it goes. They could be the dream team, but I don't think they will lose complexity, especially not at first. So I'm not too worried about that. But the other thing I want to get to is roster changes in general. They're kind of shitty, in my opinion. It's just really hard. I tweeted about this the other day. It's really hard for me to root for a team when the team changes after every tournament. There's just not, Complexity is the only team that's really stayed together, and despite that, they still dropped a player. So, and I heard Curse Las Vegas was under contract, and despite that, Parasite did leave. But there needs to be more contracts, just like such as sports. And if you sign a contract for a couple of years, you're not allowed to leave and shit like that. And I think you'll get a lot more sponsors. You'll get a lot more fan base if you have a consistent team with the same players. And a lot of it comes down to money, in my opinion. Twitch has kind of changed the whole scheme of things. You know what I mean? This was pretty crazy right here. Watch. This guy, I don't know how he didn't kill me. I kind of sprayed up. It happened to work. I got him with enough bullets to win. But anyways, you'll probably get a lot more sponsors, fan base, and Twitch has changed the atmosphere where it's kind of now they're going for these houses. Who can make the most money with these houses with streaming, YouTube, and things like that, which is kind of cool but kind of bad at the same time because now it comes with a little bit more of money territory for gaming rather than actually winning the tournaments. But it's also cool because you can kind of see their personalities rather than just their game skill and just basing off your decision to like them off that. So, what I think should happen, like I said, it should be contracts between organizations, such as something like Curse, makes a contract for maybe 2 years, 1.5, and maybe there'd be a buyout or something like that. It needs to be more if you're going to consider yourself a sport, esports, you got to start acting like it. You can't just flip-flop every fucking decision just because you personally don't like somebody, just because you guys didn't do well at a tournament, you know what I mean? You're never going to get better at a tournament unless you work on that chemistry. Just because you play for a couple months or a month or two, doesn't mean you should win every tournament, There's going to only be one winner, and it's not always going to be you. And even the young teams and the good teams are dropping people like flies. Justice Pro lost 2 players. Elevate, who kind of surprised and seemed to be on their way up, dropped a player or he left. I'm not sure which. So it just kind of stinks. All the changes coming with Call of Duty, and it's just because there's a lot of egos in this electronic sports. I'm not sure if I thought maybe it could have been a sport before, and you could call it a sport. But at this time, I really don't think it is, and the way it is, it'll just never be taken seriously unless it'll never be taken seriously unless You have contracts. And by the way, right there, you see me go in third person. That is actually going to be gone in the next patch. I forgot to mention that. And as you see here, we were down 3-5 and making our comeback. And we had a lot of momentum going. I think they kind of started fucking around a little bit with us. One of those rounds you saw both of them were sniping. They happened to actually get buns on the sniper, so maybe they weren't fucking around as much as trying a different strategy. But we were now 70k rank in MLG, so we're obviously fairly new. So I don't think they really considered us much of a threat. And so that kind of concludes my whole esports wrap up. I got to be honest. We come with roster changes. I said all the information I need to say. Complexities on top. Other teams are just striving to beat them. And right here, here's what I decided to change my strategy. And I wish I would have thought of this sooner. I missed my shots, but it was definitely a good call out, and Buns finished them off for me. But what happened, like I said, was that they would stun A, they wouldn't see anybody, and they would run. And they would run, I thought, maybe through straight to gate or to post office. But right there, he ran right across from Gina's, what I call Gina's. It's Gina's, technically. He ran right in front of Gina's. And it was weak right there. So I made the call out. Buns finished him off. And right here, I had the bomb. So I didn't want to push up. I wanted to play pretty safe so I could put the bomb down while he played up. Because I didn't want to put in an awkward situation where I die mid-street and he has to grab the bomb. But Buns finished it off. He saw the guy drop down to the tank right here. And overall, it was an awesome game. We were so pumped. It was definitely a good way to go to bed, to be honest, to end on a good streak. And a great game against two good players. Like, we played against a lot of people that were top 100. Top 1,000 in MLG. And we actually beat somebody top 1,000 our first day. But this was a very good team to beat. And so, especially on their host. So, hope you guys enjoyed the GB match. Hope you guys enjoyed my little esports roundup recap. Let me know what you guys think. And yeah, if you guys like it, I'll be doing a lot more videos again. Sorry, I've been kind of struggling. Been focusing on family, my personal life, and Twitch. But hope you guys enjoyed. Stay hairy, and Ginas.